Lately I've been thinking about this life and how it brought me here. Staring at this man in the mirror, I see him often here. Wipe my tears, only if you knew what I was going through. Only if you walked it in my shoes. Certain things don't like this.
Welcome to the Message Hope podcast, where the hope stands for hearing other people's experience. My name is Adam.
My name is Mike, and today we have somebody in the studio that I started my relationship with him. We were working together, not for the same company, but for the same community. And I met him, and I thought he was just a normal guy. And then we got to talking.
That's funny, a normal guy.
Not that he's not normal, but you know, after talking to him and getting to know him a little bit, he's one of us. So, Phil, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Thank you for coming, Phil.
Yeah,
Thank you for having
Phil.
me, guys. Yeah,
We really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you.
So we normally start out the podcast with, you know, the beginning. What was your upbringing like? Where did you grow up?
Sure. Okay.
Did you have any siblings or anything like that? Or
Yeah, I am. I'm the oldest of. I have three sisters. Grew up in San Bernardino,
Okay.
and I grew up basically around my grandma's house for the first probably 4 years. From what my parents told me, I was always over there, and I can remember when I was younger. I remember my aunts in the house were very excited, and they were just yelling and screaming and saying my uncle was home, and I didn't know who they were talking about, you know. And I was younger, I was kind of scared. And that's when my uncle came back from Vietnam. So I used to be around my grandma's all the time. My grandma's was the hangout for all the muscle cars. They would race on E Street, and you know, I was like a monkey on my uncle's back ever since, you know, until today, we're still really close. So as far as I understand, when I was growing up, you know, I was the first grandchild, of course, spoiled, you know. I had all the little cars, everything you could ride on. I know that the guys that would come over, they used to love picking me up and pointing anything at the motor and not telling what it was. That's a head. That's you know, manifold, that's headers. They taught me all that, you know, when I was little. So at one point I did hear, and I haven't confirmed it all the way yet, but also too, when I was younger, back then I was given alcohol. So of course, you know, they probably watched me walk around, and that's from what I understand. And then from there, I grew my grandpa taught me how to play baseball. So I was involved in little leagues and, you know, made all-stars, you know, special teams. And later on in life, after I started using, it helped me get around a lot because I knew a lot of guys everywhere.
Right.
Just from that. Okay. And also, too, my dad, he was a letter carrier. I worked for the post office for about 43 years. And,
oh, wow.
And everybody knew me a lot of people knew me as a mailman's son. So, of course, I was in and out everywhere, you know. And, but.
That's when it was like a simpler time, bro. Yeah.
Oh,
Nobody knows a mailman's son. And, you know, it was such a simpler time back then. Correct. You know what I'm saying? Now it's, anyways.
Not like today. Yeah. I mean, I used to be out. I was the one, I was always a class clown. I was the one that we'd be out in the neighborhood riding our bikes all the time, having gunfights all the time in our neighborhood. I couldn't wait for the newest Scooby-Doo to come out on Saturday. Yeah. You know what I mean? I love drawing, love cartoons, you know, all that. And I had, well, I still do. I have really good friends in the neighborhood. And, you know, for the ones that are still around, you know, they're still good friends. So, no, I started with the baseball. At one point, I was in playing Pony League and also playing JV baseball. And at that time, I was about 14, and my dad and mom, they didn't drink. They didn't do drugs, you know. But my dad, everybody give him hard liquor bottles, right? So I found him. And a friend of mine from up the street and one of my cousins, and we drank all the bottles. Okay, that was my first. As soon as I drank, I liked that feeling of being out of myself.
Yeah.
So, eventually my parents had some friends over and asked them if they wanted a drink. They made them a drink, and they told them this doesn't taste like anything.
Right.
Of course, I did what everybody else does. We fill them with water after we were done. So, that's the first experience that I had with drinking. So from then on, with baseball, I had an experience in Little League. There was I was 11 years old, and there was a 12-year-old that made the All-Stars, and my coach back then said, "Hey, both of you get out there. Whoever does the best, you'll start."
Right.
And I started. So I had that mentality already in my head. When I got to high school, I made varsity. They brought me up to varsity when I was in 10th grade, and there was an 11th grader ahead of me, right? But I played. And then the next year, they wanted to put me on junior varsity, and he was a senior now.
Right. So
I went to go talk to the coach about it. My mindset was already there. He didn't say anything. So I quit. I quit baseball, and I love baseball. So anyways, it was I believe it was the night after, some really good friends of mine, they were at his uncle's biker party, and they did meth. They had meth there. So what did my friend do? That next night he saw me, and I was drinking. He gave me a line, and I was off and running.
How old were you?
That time I was 17.
Okay, so
yeah, 17 is when I started. So, and then of course, like I was saying, my uncle that's really close to me, I brought it.
Right.
I was kind of nervous at first. I brought it in front of him, and then of course him and I were, we were partying together and stuff. And I love my uncle to death. Trust me, he's taught me a lot. But that's where it all started with that. Just it's been a long journey of many different adventures.
So was there anything in your childhood that you would consider to be traumatic? Was there anything that was
no
that could have instigated you?
No, I'll be honest with you. I had really good friends. I had really, and like I said, I was always a class clown. There was nothing like that, nothing traumatic in my life that made me turn to it. I just know that when I did it, I liked it.
Yeah, right.
And that was it.
Right away.
Yeah, right away. Yeah, instantly. Both of them, the alcohol and the meth. I like the way it made me feel. Yeah. Like I was on top of the world. Nobody can stop me. But.
And so did you get into heavy meth use at the age of 17?
Well, at 17, all I did was snorted it for a long time. Had a lot of friends that would shoot it up and stuff. Never was interested. A lot of, when they started smoking it, wasn't interested.
So you were
at that
around
time
when people started actually smoking.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? Because before, for a long time, it was just either sniff it or shoot it. Right? And then they fucking invented us Californians, what I just figured out, it's a California term, until they invented the pookie, right? Which is the meth pipe. And then before that, it was foil, correct? Everybody got high on foil.
Probably. I don't quite remember, but it probably was, because I know I've watched some of them smoking on foil. Even I did at one point. Okay. You get to the point to where I'm afraid of needles, so I would never shoot it up. But I've watched a few friends shoot it up. Yeah. But just wasn't interested.
Thank God.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank God, bro.
Exactly. Well, listen, I heard
it's a whole different animal for sure.
Animal,
it really is.
That's what I understand.
It really, really
Matter
is.
of fact, the meth users that smoke or snort don't want the ones that shoot up around.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the way it is.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny because even in homeless camps, right? Mm-hmm. They're always separated by drugs. They're not separated by race. They're not separated by gender. They're separated by drug use, right? Like the opioid, the heroin addicts and stuff like that, they have one camp. The meth addicts, the crack addicts, everybody has their own camp because, I remember I was at a bus stop, right? And this dude he's like, I just smoke crack. I'm fucking strung out on meth. I just smoke crack. I'll never hit the glass dick, and I'm just a crack kid. And I'm like, who the fuck is this fool judging me for, smoking meth?
Yeah. A drug's a drug.
A drug's a drug. A drug's a drug. 100%. Yeah.
Exactly. So.
Yeah. All right. And back then, in your days, meth was very potent back then.
Yeah.
Right. It wasn't what we have nowadays. I mean, I haven't used in over 11 years, right? But it wasn't. I mean, that's just stories I heard. Oh, back in the days, the biker crank,
meth, peanut butter,
all that stuff.
Oh,
Yeah. And obviously, there's nothing good about drugs, period,
Correct.
right? But but that's when it was actually really potent and really strong and made correctly before they made all these like regulations on certain medications, and you can only buy this and you can't buy that, and stuff like that. So
So I was just looking today. That I actually have 15 years clean. Didn't even realize it.
Oh, nice! Congratulations, bro.
Yeah, so
that's awesome,
2009.
bro. Congratulations, bro.
Yeah.
What month and day?
It was actually it was leap year.
Okay.
So
okay.
Yeah, and that's the day I got arrested.
So was it like February 29th?
Yeah, it's 29th.
February.
But when they arrested me, they put it down as like March 1st. I know they had the date wrong. They had to have. Because I just remember it was leap year that day, but yeah.
So you get to celebrate every 4 years.
Yeah, there you go.
So you started using when you're 17.
Yeah.
When did it really start to progress into a problem for you?
Probably, I think about 23.
When you were 23?
Is when I got to the point, and you know what, I was able to hold jobs. Okay, I was always able to hold jobs for a point, and then of course you know how it goes.
Yep.
But when I was 23 is when it got to be where it was every day.
Yeah.
Didn't even think about it. You just switch into it, and you're doing it every day. Mm-hmm. So
you're like, how did I get here?
Yeah. How did I get here? And there's about that time, I wasn't even thinking about how to get off. Didn't want to, at that time. So,
when did you start going to jail, or when did you realize it was a problem?
Well, I had been to jail one time when I think I was 19, and there used to be a bar called Bull and Mouth in Riverside. And I was there. We were drinking. It was before Thanksgiving. I was there drinking. And at the time, I had a girlfriend from work. Anyways, a friend of hers made a lewd comment. So, hey, I just remember just lunged at him. And before you know it, I was turned around. Her brother was behind me. And he got me and flipped me around. So I had walked out. She had just given me a shirt, too, as a gift. Walked out, threw the shirt off. My boss was out there. He saw me. I got in my car. Well, I actually punched my car. And, of course, broke my hand. I didn't realize it until later. Got in my car. Did a 360, stopped just before I'd hit the car that was next to me, and took off. Well, my boss that night, he said, man, dude, as soon as you left, cops were here. Which way did he go? Okay. So I was out there off of 3rd and Blaine. And, don't ask me how I did it. I don't know what happened. I ended up on a dirt field, and I got my car stuck off a wall right behind Stater Brothers. So I get out, and, of course, I had no shirt on, right? Get out. I walked there's a bar there right at the corner called Duke's. Went in there, used the phone to try to call my uncle to come get me. He couldn't make it out where I was or anything. So I went outside, and a cop pulled up right then and there. They knew it was me. And, I got my first time a taste of what our justice system's like. But anyway, so they took me in. They kept asking for my phone call. They didn't like it. So a couple of them came in and roughed me up. Got back up. Could have been, I was drunk. I got back up. Kept asking them. So they came in and they put me on this thing that looked like a surfboard. Handcuffs. My hands, I was on my stomach. Up top, my feet on the bottom. So at one point I kept telling them I had to use the restroom, right? I had to pee. And they kept telling me, piss in your pants. Piss in your pants. And you know what? I learned that I could slip my hand out of the handcuff And I pissed on the floor, and that pissed them off. Anyway, so yeah, they came in with a mop and bucket, and the one challenged me to hit them. Of course, you know, I had to tell him, "What do you think? I'm stupid? You know, there's all these guys in here." But that was my first encounter with jail. I'd like to talk a little bit, if it's okay,
Of course.
before my second encounter. I had one fiance through my life prior before that. A couple girlfriends, right. Throughout this process. And I met the love of my life in recovery.
Okay.
And that's one of the things, of course, they tell us not to do, right?
Yeah.
And I had 5 years clean, and she had a couple months, I believe. And so we started dating, and next thing, we had our son, Jacob. So we got married, and I was clean all the way up until his third birthday. At that time, she was still she had a lot of kidney stones and stuff, and one of her choices was opiates, like Vicodin and stuff like that. So it would be off and on. But I didn't recognize the signs. At that time, we lived in a mobile home in Paris. But I came home from work one day, and there's this guy with all these tats in the living room. Mm-hmm. So right away, his wife and him ran the place.
Yeah.
Okay, so he was only there for a few minutes, and then he took off. And I can't remember why she said he was there. But I didn't recognize when I was coming home, she was up still. It didn't click. Okay, it wasn't clicking. So what ended up happening was we had a third birthday party for my son. They're at the mobile home park, and it's their clubhouse.
Yeah.
Had lots of family over and stuff. And that night, there's a lot of beer there. I ended up drinking. I drank a couple beers. Next thing you know, she offered me a line, and I was off and running again. And, you know, throughout that ordeal, I just thank God that we didn't kill our sons, because we have 3 boys.
Yeah.
Okay, we had a Daniel almost a year later, and Jimmy almost a year later after that.
Okay. So back to back for 3 years.
Back to back. Yeah. So
the real Hispanic way.
yeah, it's real. There you go. Well, I had a friend at the steel mill. Used to tell me, "Dang, don't you let her get out of the hospital?"
The same way my baby mom.
Yeah. So, but anyways, the thing I talked to my boys a little bit about is that my oldest Jacob. Well, actually, my stepdaughter's here, and she told me, "Yeah, you can talk about it," because she was a Vicodin baby. Mm-hmm. My son Jacob was Vicodin and whatever she could get, and she smoked with all 3 boys too.
Yeah.
My middle one was methadone and Vicodin, and then my last one was a meth baby. So,
Wow.
All through that, it's just my heart it just breaks that all that had to go through. But I thank God, because that is my higher power, that they're all okay.
Yep.
Was that what you mentioned you talked with them about before coming
Yeah,
here?
yeah, because they didn't know that. Well,
Right.
actually what happened too is I had to tell my middle son that when he was born, because she was on methadone and she was still getting Vicodin from Kaiser, CPS came in.
Yeah.
So they took him for a couple of months. It was very heartbreaking. At that time, I was still sober. That was before Jacob's third birthday. But I was really devastated because I couldn't get him, even though I was sober, And what we did was, and I love my in-laws, all of them. I love my in-laws. And my father-in-law and mother-in-law took us in. We stayed with them for a couple months, jumped through all the hoops, and got my son back.
Yeah, they're hoops, though, for real.
A lot of hoops.
Me and him have both experienced that.
Yeah. And that's
we both experienced kids with
under
the influence.
Yeah.
It's kind of part of the animal, right? Part of the beast, part of the get down.
Yeah.
I was just sharing with somebody like 2 days ago. I remember being in this motel room, right? And the mother of my kid's pregnant. We go to pick up dope, and we're getting high, and then there's this girl on the bed who is talking shit to my baby's mom while she's pregnant and she's drinking. right? And it kind of goes back to what we're talking about, like how we judge each other or we judge one another, right?
Yeah.
Like my brother, I'm gonna break his name. I don't care. My brother Gasper, right? He talks about like we all got shit on us, right? It's just smeared a little differently,
Yeah.
you know, and like and that's one of those moments, right, where someone who's drinking, and she was a heavy drinker, right, and really now that I'm in recovery and I work in the field, I've learned that alcohol is one of the worst things you could do to a baby when you're pregnant, right?
Yeah.
And so like you got somebody who, people that are judging each other for their mishaps, right?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I felt early recovery was I felt like a lot of judgment. When my kids were in CPS, I felt a lot of judgment. I felt a lot of ridicule, and it was important for me. Like for example, right? If you tell somebody that in the real world, right, in the regular world, like the business world, our friend world, our family world, right, they're gonna look at you like, what the fuck's wrong with you, right?
Yeah.
And when you're around other people who are in recovery and experience some of the same things that we experience, when we say that, the most we say is like, me too, right? Like it's unfortunate, and I feel the same way you do, bro. Like I feel like God spared my kids, right? Because
me too.
I was unfit, you know, to make any decision in their life. You know, that's my story, right?
Correct.
I was unfit, she was unfit, and you know, God bless us with these beautiful kids.
Correct.
And we messed it up for a long time. We you know, got loaded, you know, and I used to blame her all the time, right? Before I got clean this time, like I didn't know how to take accountability and responsibility for my part, right? And for years, it was like, why the fuck didn't you do something? Like you're supposed to be the mom, you're supposed to be the family woman. Like I'm the man, like I could do whatever or whatever, right? All those like that misinformation. And when I got clean this time, I had to accept that was a part of my guilt, right? And I always known it was a part of my guilt, but I deflected by, well, you're the mom. Right, that's how I could take the blame off of me and put it on you, right?
Sure.
And in recovery, it teaches us, man, like that was just as much as my doing as it was hers, right? Because I allowed her to get loaded, right? I didn't say nothing to her when she was getting loaded, so that I could get loaded in peace, right? And that's where my disease takes me.
Sure.
My disease takes me to a place where like everything's acceptable as long as I'm loaded and I'm well off. I'm good. As long as I'm under the influence, I don't give a fuck what happens around here. You know what I'm saying? As long as you guys are leaving me alone, I'll leave you alone. And that includes immediate family, people that are really close to me. I don't give a fuck what you're doing. You put needles in your arm, cool. Just let me smoke my dope. I mean, I put needles in my arm for a little bit too, but you know, the point is that like there's so much that we accept when. For me, like when I'm under the influence that I would never accept, you know, in my recovery now, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's not okay, right? But it happened.
Correct.
You know, who I mean, there's nothing we could do to change that but move forward, right? And make living amends by not picking up and not getting loaded and being the best dads that we could be.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah. Matter of fact, there was times when it's just survival mode.
Yeah.
After a while, okay. There's a lot of times that I would cry at night because I could not get off it, and I knew that I could be a better dad. I knew I could be a better dad, and I wanted to be that better dad. You know, and it took a little bit before it happened, but you know, I know we all experience things like, you know, I've had the kids in the car when I'm nodding out, and I'd look up and I'd see them in the car seats, scared, and oh my God, you know, I just think about those times and thank you God for keeping, you know, because I remember the first time I started nodding out, I was coming into San Bernardino, and we lived at Paris at the time, and I just couldn't stay awake. So I called my wife. I called Julie. I said, "Hey, I can't stay awake." She goes, "What are you talking about?" I go, "I can't stay awake," you know. And of course, I'm a fast lane driver, right? So I'm coming in here, San Bernardino, and I'm right here in the Guthrie interchange, coming in like I'm going to go like 215, right?
Yeah.
Going to it. And the next thing you know, the phone's ringing. I had dropped it, right? So I'm picking it up. I'm already all the way in the slow lane, and all the cars behind me stopped. Because I was probably nodding out the whole time. And I just thank God, you know, there's many times that we have those kind of things. And I just thank God that we didn't kill our kids, didn't kill anybody else, you know, through this process. But, so what ended up happening was with us, we were in survival mode. I used to work for a steel mill, and my steel mills used to lay us off a lot. But I had the top paying job in the shop. I was over 200-ton overhead ladle craning with the liquid steel. and she was an ER nurse, and she had not had her nursing license. It's been expired for a couple of years, so she thought, well, I'm going to reinstate it. So she reinstates it, and she made double than what I was making, right? So we decided and at that time we moved to Temecula already. So what we decided was that I will be a stay-at-home dad until the boys go to school, because to put all three of them in daycare was going to take my whole check, and I made good money. And I thought, nah. So I was a stay-at-home dad for a little while. Okay, so I learned the experience of that, and not only with the using, but then hey, listen, in the steel mill, nothing in the steel mill affected me, or because I love operating the cranes and stuff. Nothing scared me in there. Okay, but when I heard thump, 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 thump down the stairs, running around thinking one of the boys fell, that's different. Right. Yeah, a lot different. Yeah, so it's a rough job. That is a rough job, and they were all in diapers. Yeah. So, but anyways, what ended up happening was we ended up moving from Temecula, and we moved into the mountains, into Pine Cove. Okay. She was an ER nurse out in the desert. So we were still having the battles, and just before we left Temecula, she had hit me once. All right, but what are you gonna do? I'm not gonna report my wife. I'm not gonna call the cops on her. Whatever. I'm not gonna do that. So we get up to Pine Cove. It happened a couple more times. So at this point, her youngest brother came over to the house, and of course, her and I had been drinking, but she drank more and she passed out. Right, and we're Christians. We're all Christians. Yeah. Okay. So I talked to her brother. I said, "Hey, Julie's been hitting me. I don't know what to do." So he called his wife out, and he told her tell her what's going on. So I told her, and what we did was we prayed. We prayed about it. Okay, that's what we're supposed to do. Okay, so the following weekend, she comes home, and I had been drinking that day wine, and she had drank a bottle of wine, and I saw a bottle of vodka opened up. Well, she had gotten upset with me. We had this small tire iron in the house, okay? And I found this thing in the street, like in Temecula. So, that's just strange. But anyway, she came at me with that, okay? And she hit me 3 times with it. First time she hit me in the chest, shoulder, and then finally the head. So took her down by her arms, got the tire iron away from her, and then she tried to bite my finger off. I don't know why she stopped, blood or what, but that hurt. That hurt more than getting hit with that tire iron. So anyways, I know that Jacob was up because she started screaming for Jacob. Call 911 or get the phone, Jacob. And at that time he was a little guy still. So he came out with the phone. I got it from him. I said, "What are you doing, Julie?" And I just tossed it and just kicked back in there on the couch. And she went to the room. She called. So the next thing I know, I see the lights, or I see them pull up, right? So they're all coming up, watching with all their guns coming up to the side. So I put my jacket on, got my snow boots on, right? Because they're pounding on the door. If you don't open, we're going to kick it down. So, of course, I opened it and went out with my hands up, right? And, he took me out like I was a wife beater. Wow. Took me out of the house. I know he broke one of my ribs. He had me on the ground. And I came out. They all had guns on me. And at one point, my hand was free. And at one point, I thought I should just nail him in the face with my elbow. Yeah. Thank God I didn't, because my life would have changed forever then. Yeah, yeah. So, of course, after, I was telling him, hey, I go, I told him what just happened. And the ambulance people were right there. They go, "Can we check him out?" And he goes, "Yeah." So right away they said, "Yeah, he does have a contusion to his head, and he does have a bite on his finger." So they put me on a stretcher. Put me in a neck brace. So as soon as I got into the ambulance, my sister had been calling. She knew there were some issues going on. So my wife answered, Julie answered, and she told her what happened, told her I was in the ambulance. So my dad used to be in the reserves. Right away, he called, said, this is where my son's at. You guys are taking him to the hospital. Which one? And they told him, they're taking me to Hemet. So my dad, my mom, and an uncle and aunt of mine went out there to the hospital. They got there before I did. Okay. So, and then on the way down, the ambulance attendants were telling me, you need to report this. You need to report the way that guy took you out of the house and the way he did, but which I never did. But anyways, what ended up happening was they told my parents, you can't see him. He's under arrest. So, okay. And she stayed at home with the boys, which I'm glad because we already had our situation with CPS. And that's the last thing I wanted them is to go to CPS because I just knew they'd get separated. So anyway, what happened was in the morning they released me. They had to give me a CAT scan, and they were more concerned about the finger bite than the head. They said it's because of the germs. But anyway, so I got taken to jail, and when I was in there, I started calling for Bill's bondsman. So I finally got a hold of one. He said, "Don't worry, just wait. Give me a couple hours. I'll give you a call back." So when he calls me back, the first thing he said was, "I can't help you." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "I can't help you." He goes, "You got 5 felonies on you, looking at 30 years in prison and attempted murder, $1 million bail." Yeah. Damn. And let me tell you, my whole everything, like the blood from my head went down. I go, what just happened? What just happened? So what ended up happening was the first 10 days I was in there, first few days, I was already thinking, I can't wait to get out of here. When am I going to get out of here? Thought I had a couple bucks in my pocket. I wanted to get a beer, smoke a cigarette, right? Yeah. All that, but God knows how long, what I needed. Because what ended up happening was by the 10th day, okay, only my mom was showing up, and like my aunt, and when they would see me for the hearings or whatever, my dad was there. And he kept pointing like I didn't know what he was signaling me about. But come to find out, they dropped the $1 million bail down to $50,000, and they were able to get me out. So at that point, mind you, I was a stay-at-home dad. My boys don't know what happened to me. Right? So, of course, there was restraining orders and stuff. So, and it took a little over a year before I got my trial. So that whole time, I kept myself occupied. Just was starting to walk a lot. All of a sudden I started jogging, started hiking. Just knew that if anyone's going to stay sober, it's going to be me for our boys, right? I'm going to stay sober. That's it. I'm done. So I got to my trial. They ended up telling me, hey, you're going to have to do something. You're going to have to do sometime. They're going to give you the minimal, whatever, and it is what it is. I had to do 3 months, right? But I'll tell you, that 3 months when I was in there, it was actually a blessing to me. Yeah. But to watch how God had his hand on me the whole time when I was in there, when I was in there, of course, I wanted to work right away and went to all the reps. They signed it and got into the laundry room right away. But the thing about it, when I was in there, handball, okay? I started playing handball, and I played baseball. I could throw the ball hard enough where they couldn't hit it. Some of the guys, right? But I'll never forget, there was these 2 brothers that they could slap the ball with their hand open, right? And I couldn't, it wasn't like, I couldn't hit it like them, right? So then, and they, right away, they came around me, they liked me, they knew I played ball, right? Talked to me and stuff. And, I pretty much was able to talk to anybody in there. Anyway, so the next spot I went to, I saw somebody hit it with a closed fist. And as soon as I did that, that's when I was able to beat the younger guys, any guys my age. It was like, and the blessing is that I was able to, anytime they let us out, I'd walk around, and they would come talk to me. And I was able to talk about God to them. And, and they would tell me why they're in there and they're scared and whatever's going on. And I was able to give a couple Bible studies in there. And it was just a blessing all the way around when I was in there. So, anyways, it took once I was out, I did everything I was supposed to do right away. Okay, I already started taking my classes early. What do you call that when you have to go out and clean the freeways or whatever? They only gave me community service. They only gave me like 12 hours. Not much. I had moved back to San Bernardino. I was arrested in Riverside. Went to go see the parole officer. He looked at me. He goes, "You know what? You know what I think of your file?" And he threw it in the trash. He goes, "Just wait till you get transferred over." Never had anybody check on me. Nothing the whole time. Because by the time it was, I just finished everything. I completed everything.
Yeah.
Never had to report to anybody. And that's another thing I look at. Thank you, God. He helped me out that way. But the thing is, like this whole time, I started, once I got back to them, I was always driving to them. We never followed any of the what the court ordered.
Right.
I said, I'm going to them. Right. I still love my wife. She's, the mother of my children. Loved her dearly. Just didn't understand what was going on all the time. Okay. So what we did was they ended up moving back up into up there in Lake Hemet. And I actually, once I started working, nobody would hire me. I was forced to start my own business. Okay. So, I started my own business. God's been really good with that. But I would drive up to Idlewild to Idlewild every weekend. For 13 years, I did it every weekend so I could be there for the boys.
Nice.
And show them that, we still love their mother. We didn't fight. We never at each other's necks like that. Even in court, even the judge said, "You guys are a breath of fresh air in front of everybody.
Yeah.
You guys, get along." And, but anyways, come to find out what it was that I didn't quite understand, because I always thought my wife had bipolar.
Right.
Okay. At one point, the hardest thing I had to do was get a divorce from her, because if I didn't, I would start using again. We were two peas in a pod.
Yep.
And with one using and the other not, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
So I had to separate myself, and it was really hard to do that. But my stepdaughter, that's here now with us, she was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. You either get it from the mom or the dad. So, and my son, Jacob, borderline personality disorder. My second son, he has autism. My third son, I don't know what he has. I don't know if he has anything, but yeah. So, but anyways, so I did that for 13 years. And last October 14th, I got a call from one of my complexes, and they had told me that there was a problem there. So normally when I get a call like that on Saturday night, I just pack up and I just leave. I come stay down here, right? Because I'm already got to go to work, But I didn't even think about it. Didn't cross my mind. And I asked my middle son, "Hey, you want to go with me to Redlands?" It was at night. He goes, "Yeah, I'll go." So we're getting our shoes on, and my ex had come out, and she asked me, "Hey, where are you guys going?" I said, "Oh, we're going to go to Complex in Redlands. We'll be back in just a bit."
Right.
So Sunday morning, I heard this horrific screaming from, from my oldest son. And he kept saying, "Something's wrong with mommy." Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
And I knew. And the hardest thing was hearing the boys' heart-wrenching screams. We lost her that day, and it's just, I still haven't had a good cry yet. I really haven't. Just holding everything together, and but I moved all the boys back down here to San Bernardino with me now, and it was quite the journey with her, but she died too young. They claimed it as because she did have a lot of issues, health issues. They say with borderline personality disorder that one of them's your heart. Really? Yeah. So, anyways, yeah. So she, well, let me back it up. A couple weeks before she passed, my niece was telling me that her and Aunt Julie went to the store, and Aunt Julie was crying because she's saying a lot of her illnesses are irreversible. So, and she has just got putting on oxygen. But, her autopsy, we found what they said was, of course, the heart. And I couldn't even tell you exactly what it was because there's several words to use before it. That she had diabetes, she was overweight. She also had, what else? She had asthma. Okay, there was a high amount of oxycodone in it, but they said they're just claiming it as accidental because of her health issues.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I'm so sorry. I forgot where I was going with this. Okay. I'm so sorry. Yeah. But anyways.
And how old are your kids when all this happened?
This just happened last year, 22, 20, and 18.
Okay.
So, and like I said, it was a lot to go through. There was a lot of times when I had to race up to Idlewild because they would call me, or I had to call the sheriffs. It's just, it was just a roller coaster. Yeah. A real roller coaster ride. But in the end, like I said, she was my true love.
Yep.
And I actually found a 5-page letter she wrote to her daughter when I was looking for her license after she passed. And I actually got to read what she was feeling the whole time. And a lot of it made sense. It kind of like the pieces of the puzzle. Yeah. I'm still getting pieces on how things happen and why they happen. And, her daughter just told me that it's easier to say that you're bipolar than it is to say you have borderline personality disorder. It's not as accepted, she feels. Yeah, and that's probably why my ex didn't say it.
Kids kind of made being bipolar, anxiety, depression is almost like a trend now. Like it's cool to have these disorders, right? And when people have situational anxiety, right? I got anxiety, and they kind of use it as a crutch. And I mean, in a sense, it's good that like some of these mental health issues are coming to light, and we're realizing that a lot more people have it than we think. Correct. But it's also become like cool to be anxious or cool to be depressed or emo is what they call it nowadays, Yeah. But really, like these are severe mental health conditions, right? And if untreated, I didn't know that bipolar or borderline personality affected your heart like that, right? Yeah. But it makes sense because you think about like how powerful the mind is, right? Yeah. Like all the stress that you put on your heart from different things. Like I dealt with some mental health issues, depression for sure. Because even when I got clean, there was like times where I'd have depression for 3 weeks straight. You know what I'm saying? Wanting to kill myself for absolutely no reason, or anxiety has always been prevalent in my life, right? But like when I was under psychosis, right, and I was hallucinating, and whether things were real or not, right, my body reacted as if they were real, right? So all that fear that was pumping through my heart, all that anxiety that was pumping through my heart, all that just high blood, like it fucks you up, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And so man, like I definitely think that we need more light shed on mental health, and I think we need more safe places for people to be able to express. Mental, because it's almost, I think like even as addicts, right? Like when people think of addict, they think of dirty, they think of useless, they think of piece of shit, they think of all those things, right? And I think that's like one of our goals of the podcast is to bring more light to addiction, man. Like we're just people, right? Just like when we have mental illness, right? In the treatment field, they call it dual diagnosed, right? You have substance use disorder and you got mental health issues, right? Correct. And like, I wouldn't say normalize it, but make it more known of what the effects are, right? We're not just horrible people that have no hope, right? And I believe that with mental health, man. And I feel like I could talk about this a little more now because now I work in a field where half my work is mental health and half my work is drugs. And then, on the drug side, you got mental health, and on the mental health side, you got a lot of drugs, right?
Sure,
and so they almost coincide with each other, or at least they cross paths a lot, right?
Correct.
They antagonize each other.
Antagonize, right? But the truth is both of those diagnoses, right? Whether it's addiction, substance use disorder, or mental health, right? There's pills you could take, right? There's stuff you can help to, balance the chemicals in your brain, right? But there's also things that you could do to heal from that, right? Like the reason why addiction is considered a disease because of what it does to our brain. It literally changes the chemical makeup of our brain and the way, brain waves move and all that stuff, right? And so like the way to treat that is by partaking in new behaviors and building new routines and new habits, right? And it's the same thing when you have mental health, because if you have mental health and you just take a bunch of pills, that's a good Band-Aid, right? And you probably need those pills, but there's also more work that needs to be done, right? The therapy, the counseling, the spiritual aspect, the churches, the God, all that combined, right, is really and it's really a shame because a lot of people feel unable to talk about it because they're with the fear of judgment, the fear of ridicule, the fear of being looked down on. Or like I remember I worked at Little Caesars and I told everybody I was an addict because I was proud. I'm in recovery, And and the first time money came up missing, guess who they were looking at? You, right? And so it's like motherfucker, like I'm in recovery. I'm probably more honest than everybody in this fucking place. Sure. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I had a drug problem, but the spiritual program that I work today makes me live by integrity. When I take money or if I do this, like I feel bad about those things, right? Sure. And so it's like, it's hard because I even get clients that are like, oh, well, how do I tell my boss? Well, you have to decide if you even want to tell them or not. Yeah. Right? A lot of times I tell my clients, man, if you don't want to drink, you're a man. Yeah. You're an adult, bro. You don't have to explain yourself to anyone. You don't. Me, I'm an idiot, bro, because I end up smoking crack, or what I'm saying. That's why I don't drink. But like, I don't know, man. It's just I think normalizing is a wrong word, but I think we need to learn how to be more acceptable, acceptable to people who suffer from mental health and substance use disorder, to be able to create some kind of healthy, loving environment for them to be able to grow and change and take on new behaviors and new thought patterns.
One thing that I found out too about borderline personality disorder, and I didn't know this, is that there's no medication for it. There's just classes to learn how to deal with it. And my ex, she was highly intelligent. She first started out in pre-med. Okay, she couldn't afford it, so she became an ER nurse. And I truly, honestly, I talk to my father-in-law because he's an engineer for Nissan. And I truly believe, and I've told him that the whole time, that Julie's, her wires aren't going to come together because she is kind of like him, trying to always fix herself, trying to fix. And, that's, I always felt that. I always felt it that, that's what ended up taking her out too. Because I've tried many times trying to buy her, shoes. Let's go walking. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. But also she was getting really tired towards the end. She was hardly up anymore, and that because of her heart, I'm sure that's what it was. So
Phil, you told us that you for 13 years you would go up there every single weekend.
Every weekend, yeah.
You stayed clean the whole time.
Oh yeah.
So what was some things, I know God is a major one for you.
Sure.
Was there other things that you helped to deal with that situation?
Let me tell you, when I got out and I made that decision that I'm going to stay clean for my boys because I want to be the best dad ever, it's like God removed any kind of anything from me. Right. I mean, nothing bothers me. I mean, as far as like, I just know I don't want to live that life anymore. Yeah. I lived it long enough. And now I just want to keep living this life. It's the best life ever. Yeah, sure. I'm able to be there for my family and love my family. I have a beautiful family. Yeah. My beautiful in-laws, their family. It's just an awesome life. And I would never say that I wish I would have done this sooner because God's timing is always perfect. Yeah. God had to get me and shake me and say, "Is this what you want?" Yeah. And that's not what I wanted when I was in jail.
The truth is, none of us were ready sooner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
None of us
yeah.
were ready sooner.
Correct.
Yeah, because I think we probably all. I mean, you were clean for 5 years, right?
Yeah,
and then
clean
you
for
end up
5
getting
years.
loaded,
And
right?
Getting loaded, yeah.
Right,
yeah,
thinking,
yeah.
So like, yeah, I think whenever it's time, it's time. You know what I'm saying?
Correct.
And, you know, people they get clean. Oh, you're so lucky that you know what I'm saying? And you know, it's just truth is everybody has their own struggles.
Correct.
Everybody has their own bottom. Everybody has their own enough is enough, and something needs to change, right?
Sure,
I got
yeah.
clean pretty young, you know, 24 years old, right? And I was, I mean, I can't even imagine like what my life would be if I would have kept getting loaded, right? So like for me, I mean, I had options, right? Someone kind of pointed that out to me because I was like, I don't got a choice. I got to raise the kids. I got to do that, right? Was it you?
Might have been.
Might have been Mike. Mike's always giving me fire advice, but you know, it's like you know, we got to change our thinking. Like I do have a choice.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? I have a choice. I could walk out on my kids today.
Yeah.
I could walk out and go get loaded today. I do have a choice, but I don't choose that option because I know the consequences of that. And like no matter how, you know, traumatic life events can happen, you know, no matter how hard things might get, like this is I was talking to the clients earlier. It was more about yesterday about the 12 steps, right? And you know, I tell them, you know, when we get in here, we always want the easier, softer way. And you think that what you're doing by not doing nothing is the easier, softer way, but that's really the hard way. Right, because you're gonna have to like relapse to finally get to a point of surrender. Like, okay, maybe these people in these meetings know what the fuck they're talking about, right? And I pointed to the wall because there's steps on the wall in the group, and I was like, that's the easier, softer way.
Yeah.
Right, and it's not easy, but it's easier, and it's not soft, but it's softer than going out there and bumping your head over and over and over and over again, right? And then you're, you know, you get to a point where like, man, I wasted my whole life. And the answers have always been on the wall, or the answer has always been at church, or the answer has always been at the therapist's office, or the answer has always been in a new business adventure, or whatever the case, you know, may be, because we find purpose in all those, right? And so, yeah, I'm really grateful that I got clean, because the way I use my kids, really, we didn't have much time left. Right, it would have got really bad really fast.
Sure.
And God had like stepped in like on our last day. I mean, we were getting kicked out that the next day. It was just, you know, it was crazy, right? So when my kids were taken, it was like God's timing, perfect timing, everything like fell into place, you know. And like you heard me talking to my sister earlier, and I was talking to her last night. I was like, God will break you down. To build you up.
Correct.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
but like, he's only going to break you down so far and be like, okay, like you have to do something about your problem. You know?
Sure.
If you're not willing to do it, no one else is going to do it for you.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, and it has to come from you.
And so your recovery has been more of the church, more of Christ and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Yes, it has.
Yeah.
That's my higher power.
Good.
So, and listen, and the
Of course.
even programs work too.
Yeah.
Everything, what works for you works for you. Okay.
What I feel about the programs is, for me, my experience was the program reintroduced me to God.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And now God is what I lean on, but I thank the program for helping me build that relationship back up.
Correct.
Because I had abandoned it for years and years and years and blamed all the things that I caused myself, all the trouble I got into. I thought it was God's fault. And he didn't like me, and
and that's far from the truth.
It is.
Yeah.
It was there the whole
Very
time.
far from the truth.
It took me my last run to really figure that out.
Yeah.
It took me overdosing 3 times for me to figure it out. That God was always there. You know.
Yeah.
And that's what my bottom looked like. You know, I'd been in treatment 5 different times. I felt like I had it whooped every time I was coming to the day where I was going to complete program, and I didn't have any defense against it.
Yeah.
So God was there, but he knew it wasn't my time yet.
Yeah.
So what is it you do, Phil, to keep yourself right? I know you do a lot of business.
Sure.
You have a lot of stress. You're taking care of your boys.
Correct.
What is it that keeps you grounded, like on a daily basis?
You know, now that I'm down here and my boys are down here too, because it would be work all week. This was for 13 years, and go up there and spend time with them, but also work up there. I had different things that I would do up there for different people. You know, there was a place called the Help Center. I love those people there. And I would go do dump runs for them on the weekend just because they help Julie and the boys. as much as they could, and just, you know, doing things like that up there and then coming back down. So I was constantly on the go. Now I still am on the go, but now I got my boys here. So now what we do is we go to the gym together like a family. You know what I mean? And we've been going up to Lake Gregory, throwing the ball around, you know, doing stuff like that. Just outdoor, a lot of outdoor stuff. You know, and you know, my one son has a band. I love going to the studio with them when they're practicing. Yeah. You know, my youngest and my oldest, they're in the band, you know, have a band. So it's just always doing something with them. I'm with them all the time. My middle son, I'm taking him to work right now with me, right? And I'm able to spend a lot more time with them now. Right. And that's what keeps me grounded. Yeah.
Was that hard adjusting to having them around 7 days a week?
No,
I mean, they're grown.
Yeah, they're grown. And listen, the hardest thing for me, wherever they lived, was leaving. Yeah. Okay. Especially when they were younger. When I got back to them, my youngest would always cry, and my Julie would have to hold him. But you know what kept me going? As soon as I went out, because I was going to go out and work and be able to help them. Because that's what I did. I helped them for years, you know, able to supply for them. Yeah. You know, was able to rent for them. I was able to do all these things for them. So as soon as I left them, my heart was still kind of like wrenched. And then as soon as I was going, nope, I'm going out there and I'm going to go work because I'm going to be able to make the money to supply for them. And that's kept me going the whole time. And it still does now to this day. Yeah. So.
Okay, Phil, is there anything else that you want to add? Any other last words?
You know, just thank you for having me. And
thank you for coming.
Like I said, I hope somebody out there, one person, anyone, you know, just turn their lives around. Yeah.
And what advice would you give that one person?
You know, I can tell them, if you're tired of doing the same things over and over, don't be afraid. Jump in with both feet. Clean up, and you know what? You'll live a great life. Yeah. You know, I've always heard this. Us as alcoholic addicts, we're the nicest people in the world when we're clean and sober. Yep. You know, 100%. And all of us, we all have a gift inside. Bring that gift out and use it, 100%. And to help others.
Yep. Nice. Yeah. I heard this pastor. He talks about how the enemy could dim the gifts that God given you, but he could never take them away. Right. And I think about like when I was loaded, like I always been a good person. I always been outspoken. I always had a loud voice. I was always passionate. Right. But under the influence, the enemy like dimmed that down.
Dims it down. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But then like getting clean, like all that stuff resurfaces and you remember, you know, everything that God has given us from birth. So
correct. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
So, all right.
All right. Well, thank you, Phil. We really appreciate you coming out.
Thank you, Adam. Yeah. Thank you, Mike.
Thinking of my life like looking for the right state of mind to get my time right. I just hope my time's right. Lost up in the limelight, but you'll never know unless you walked up in my shoes.
As someone who struggled with addiction in the past, how does it feel to be able to give hope to others who are still struggling now?
You know, it's such an honor to be able to hear other people's experiences of life, to see how when faced with the very thing that was sent to destroy you, kill you and take you out forever didn't, but rather you have been given a second chance to give hope and be a light for those who are still in the dark. So don't be afraid to share your message to the world. You never know whose life you might be saving.